ජීවිතේ වැඩිපුර ලැබෙන හොඳම දේවල් විඳින්න. දැන් SLT broadband වෙතින් 75% දක්වා වැඩිපුර data සතුට ජනවාරි 1 වෙනිදා සිට ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම්.
Tragedy. A building in Grand Pass collapse, killing 7 people, 2 in critical condition. Demands of a new PM. The UPFA and the SLFP call for a Prime Minister of their own. Strengthening the greenback. The Sri Lankan rupee plunges to a new low as political uncertainty weighs in.
Because the country is already suffering from a chronic trade deficit, the rupee could be in for further slippage.
Court proceedings. A retired high ranker of police arrested over Lasantha Wickramatunga murder, while the stay order in the Gotabe case extended. Cloud of doubt. The police recommends indicting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanayaka. Tragedy struck when a building collapsed in the area of Grand Pass in Colombo today, killing 7 people. A spokesperson for the National Hospital said that 2 persons are being treated for critical injuries.
A storage building complex located in Dr. Brito Bapapulle Place in Grand Pass collapsed around 1 in the afternoon today. The building, maintained by 2 private companies, is used as a storage facility for tea products. 20 employees had been working inside the building at the time of the collapse.
The building fell as if there was a bomb blast. By the time we got here, there was only rubble.
The owner of the storage complex is also among those who died in the incident.
There were 14 to 15 labourers working at the site along with some supervisors. Sir also went inside to look at what happened and he too got buried under the rubble. The company was right next to this building. They relocated the company to Horana and a contractor was assigned to demolish the old building. Our guess is that some of their machines might have damaged this building in the process.
Rescue operations by the army and police are underway at the scene as officials suspect that more people are trapped under the rubble. Meanwhile, bodies recovered from the debris and the injured were brought to the National Hospital in the afternoon. Two persons who are being treated at the hospital are reported to be in critical condition.
9 persons were brought to the National Hospital. 7 of them have died, 2 are in critical condition and we are treating them.
Now, ministers and parliamentarians of the United National Party say that a decision was taken to forge ahead with the government of good governance following discussions held with the Prime Minister this afternoon. Responding to questions raised by media after the meeting, they also revealed that changes to be made within the government will be given attention with the appointment of several committees.
Several discussions were held during the last few days among the members of the 2 parties of the unity government, as well as with President and Prime Minister on the issues which arose following the local authorities' election. A group of ministers of the UNP along with the Prime Minister arrived at the official residence of the President last night and held a discussion on the possibility of forming a single-party UNP government. Following the meeting with the President, they spoke to media.
They said a committee will be appointed and the discussion was peaceful. The issues of the party were discussed and there was no problem. The parties of both the President and the Prime Minister agreed to give a solution for the country by appointing a special committee on how the government will continue.
Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers met the President at the Presidential Secretariat today, and some of the UNP ministers spoke to media saying the government of good governance will continue for the next 2 years.
I hope that there will be a change within the next 10 days. How the change will be done is not clear. A group from the SLFP might cross over to the UNP or some of them might end up with Rajapaksa. No such issues were expressed today. The cabinet meeting was held as usual. The government will continue just the same.
In the meantime, parliamentarians of the UNP met with the Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at the Temple Trees once again this evening.
A change is not needed. People gave the mandate to appoint Maithripala as the President and Ranil Wickremesinghe as the Premier. The government will continue according to that mandate.
Everyone was of the opinion that there should not be a change in the position of the Prime Minister or the party leadership.
When I asked, the Prime Minister said that a committee will be appointed comprising of Minister Akila Viraj, Thalthatu Korala and Mangala Samaravira.
Now we take a quick look back at the recent machinations or the fallout from the local authorities election. Now the General Secretary of the SLFP, Duminda Dissanayake, says the President is to make a special statement on Friday regarding the political atmosphere of the country following the local authorities election. General Secretary of the SLFP also says that President will express his opinion on views expressed by the members of the two parties representing the national government.
Parliamentarians representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party met with the President Maithripala Sirisena today to discuss the current political situation arisen after the local authorities election. Expressing views to the media later, Minister Susil Premajayantha said that his party will not support a government led by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. However, the General Secretary of the SLFP, Duminda Dissanayake, expressed contradictory views after the discussion. Meanwhile, convening a media briefing, parliamentarian C.B. Ratnayake said that he will give his fullest support if the SLFP would sever ties with the unity government to establish a single UPFA government. Meanwhile, we took a look at how the events will unfold for UPFA led by SLFP to establish a single government, if they choose to, by severing ties with the UNP. UPFA secured 96 parliamentary seats during the general election in 2015. 44 of these parliamentarians supported the concept of good governance, while 52 of them were against the current government. The UPFA will only be able to establish a separate government if the party could secure 113 parliamentary seats.
The General Secretary of the United People's Freedom Alliance, Mahinda Amarira, issued a special statement a short while ago on behalf of the party, addressing President Maithripala Sirisena. The UPFA requests the President to appoint a new Prime Minister who has the confidence of the Parliament and establish a new government. The statement says that the party cannot accept Ranil Wickremesinghe as Prime Minister following results obtained during the election. It also says that UNP, led by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, was the party that made important decisions regarding the economy, constitutional amendments, foreign affairs, judiciary, as well as law and order since the new government was established. The statement goes on to say that members of the UPFA had to agree with certain decisions by the UNP because they had to honour the two-year agreement of the unity government, which has now expired. Meanwhile, Media Committee Secretary of the SLFP, Tilanga Sumathipala, also issued a special statement requesting the President to form a new government by appointing a new Prime Minister who has the confidence of the Parliament. Now, police sources say that former governor of the central bank, Arjuna Mahendran, who has become a suspect in the bond scam, is yet to arrive in the country. The Colombo Fort Magistrates Court issued the former governor notice on the 5th, calling him to appear before the Criminal Investigation Department before the 15th of February, which is tomorrow.
The Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to probe the controversial bond issuance handed over its report with recommendations and conclusions to the President on the 30th of December last year. It concludes that the intervention of former Governor of Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran in the bond auction held on 27th of February in 2017 incurred a loss of over 688 million rupees to the government. The report further says that the former governor is also responsible for leaking sensitive market information to Perpetual Treasuries Limited. Accordingly, filing a B report at the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court on the 2nd of February, the Criminal Investigation Department named former governor of Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran, former director of Perpetual Treasuries Limited Arjuna Aloysius and its CEO as suspects in the bond scam. The Colombo Magistrates Court ordered that notice be issued through Interpol for Arjuna Mahendran, calling him to appear before the CID to give a statement before the 15th of this month. The Fort Magistrate also ordered the Administration of the Immigration and Emigration to inform the CID if he arrives in the country. However, police sources confirm that former Governor Mahendran has not arrived in Sri Lanka yet.
Retired Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police, Prasanna Nanakkara, who was arrested in connection with the murder of journalist Lasantha Wickramatunge, is remanded until the 16th of February. Now let's take a look at that story as well as some of other court proceedings from around the country.
The Criminal Investigation Division arrested retired Senior DIG of Police Prasanna Nanakkara last night pertaining to the murder of journalist Lasantha Wickramatunge. The Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court today remanded the former Senior DIG until the 16th after he was produced before court. The Court of Appeal today ordered to extend the stay order issued against taking action on former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa under the Public Properties Act until the 28th of this month. The FCID filed a case against the former Defence Secretary for misusing public funds amounting to 81 million rupees for the construction of the DA Rajapaksa Museum under the Public Properties Act. Rajapaksa filed a writ petition with the Court of Appeal seeking an interim order preventing the police from arresting him. A stay order was accordingly issued on the Financial Crimes Investigation Division, preventing any action against former Secretary of Defence on November 29th of 2017. It was later extended until the 15th of February this year, prior to today's extension. The Colombo High Court today decided to temporarily lift the travel ban imposed on Chairman of the Avantgarde Private Limited Nishanka Senadipati and former Chairman of the Rakna Lanka Limited Major General Paltha Fernando until the 16th of this month. The case is filed pertaining to bribery of 35.5 million rupees. The court lifted the travel bans after their attorneys produced facts pertaining to overseas visits for medical examination and for affairs of the Athletic Association.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Now, to give you some business news, the share market fell today with the all-share price index ending 0.16% lower at 6,532.26. The market turnover was 654 million rupees. Foreign investors, however, bought a net of 97.2 million rupees worth of shares today, extending the year-to-date net foreign inflow to 5.4 billion rupees worth of equities. The index gained 0.8% last week, its third straight weekly rise. Now, Sri Lanka's rupee hit a record low of 155.90 per dollar today on heavy demand for dollars from importers. It is reported that there was a lack of exported dollar sales ahead of the country's local government elections. In the meantime, experts say that the political uncertainty has led to the situation and depreciation of rupee might lead to rising of inflation. And now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies around the world. Now we have an expert analyst with views on the rupee's depreciation.
There are two factors that are driving this particular rupee depreciation vis-a-vis the dollar. International factors and local factors that came about as a result of the election. In the international markets, we find that the US dollar has gained some strength on the back of rising inflation concerns. And as a result of that, we have found that bond yields internationally, particularly the US long bonds, are back again on the rise. So that itself is adding some fresh perspective on the international front. Locally, the election sent investors into a bit of a panic spree, and some institutional investors holding rupee bonds liquidated some of these bonds and converted them into dollars, thereby putting pressure on firstly the domestic interest rates, and also as a result of the conversion of rupees into dollars, pressure on the rupee. The important point here is the aftermath of this particular rupee depreciation, which is what is worrying. We feel that the depreciation of the currency lead to a fresh bout of rising inflation, and that is a concern because the country is already suffering from a chronic trade deficit. The rupee could be in for further slippage as time progresses.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
It's time to have a look at news from around the world. Now, Israeli police recommended indicting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for bribery in 2 criminal investigations, but the Israeli leader called the allegations baseless and vowed to remain in office. Benjamin Netanyahu has become a controversial figure in recent times with his moves on Jerusalem and attempts to exercise Israeli law in settlements. It will ultimately be up to Israel's Attorney General to decide whether to charge Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a process that could take weeks or months. The recommendations, which police distributed to the Israeli media, were at the more serious end of the range of charges that had been expected to be levelled against Netanyahu, now in his 4th term. The investigations have gone on for more than a year. One of the cases involves the alleged illegal receipt of gifts from wealthy businessmen. Netanyahu's lawyers have said the gifts were simply tokens of friendship with no quid pro quo. Meanwhile, the Israeli premier said his coalition government remained stable and would continue to govern.
All these attempts, without exception, will end without anything. Because I know the truth. I tell you this time too, things will end without anything.
Now, Myanmar government and two more ethnic armed groups signed the nationwide ceasefire accord in Mae Tao yesterday. The join-in signing of the two parties with the government's NCA has brought the total of such signatories to 10 since the first signing with 8 armed groups in October 2015.
Speaking at the signing ceremony, State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi expressed welcome for the 2 armed groups, which she said have taken a bold step in laying down a cornerstone for the emergence of a democratic federal union in the future. She maintained that the NCA is not the end of the peace process, but the beginning of the process. The beginning of political dialogue and armed conflict reduction, and through the dialogue and negotiation, political issues are to be resolved.
A political crisis in the Maldives intensified last week when President Abdullah Yameen declared a state of emergency and ordered the arrest of 2 judges of the Supreme Court and former President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom, who is also the president's half-brother. Following the tense situation, many countries issued warnings to its citizens to exercise caution when travelling to the Maldives. The latest country to do so is the United Arab Emirates.
The UAE's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a travel warning today advising its citizens planning to visit the Maldives to take precautions. The advisory, posted on the ministry's official Twitter account, comes as political instability continues in the small island nation. The UAE is not the only country to warn its citizens. On the 5th, China's foreign ministry advised its citizens to avoid visiting the Maldives until political tensions subside on the Indian Ocean archipelago. The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Geng Shuang told a regular briefing that the Chinese New Year was the peak season for Chinese tourists to visit the Maldives and suggested tourists already there to pay close attention to the situation.
Let's now take a look at some of the emerging stories from around the world.
South Korea yesterday approved the use of a record $2.64 million to bankroll the cost of hosting hundreds of visiting North Koreans during the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. The Unification Ministry spokesman said the funds will pay for the costs, including accommodations and food for North Korea's cheering squad, orchestra, taekwondo performance, journalists and other supporting personnel who had visited or are still in South Korea. Combined, they make a group of 424 North Koreans. Julian Assange's cat provided a counterpoint of light relief yesterday after a British judge refused to halt legal proceedings against the WikiLeaks founder for jumping bail and fleeing to the Ecuadorian embassy in London in June of 2012. The ruling leaves 46-year-old Assange in a legal and diplomatic impasse with no way out of the embassy where he has lived for almost 6 years, unless he decides to face the prospect of arrest by British police. It is believed the cat was given to Assange by his children in 2016 to give him company at the embassy. Over 22,000 people fled Congo to Uganda last week following a surge of ethnic violence in the northeast, raising the total number of arrivals to about 34,000 since the start of the year. At least 30 people have been killed in fighting between Hema herders and Lendu farmers in the province of Ituri this month, echoing clashes that killed thousands of Hema and Lendu during a civil war that ended in 2003. US President Donald Trump said yesterday that he was considering a range of options to address steel and aluminium imports that he said were unfairly hurting US producers, including tariffs and quotas. Steelmakers recently urged Trump to take broad action to reduce steel imports to curb global excess steel production capacity, largely in China. A grand procession was held to celebrate the Hindu festival of Mahashivaratri in India's northern holy city of Varanasi yesterday. The festival is marked every year just before the arrival of spring season between the months of February and March to celebrate the marriage of Shiva with Parvati, the daughter of the mountains.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Time for sports. The school big match fever is slowly catching on, and here are some of the updates on two of the annual clashes scheduled this year.
Starting the big match season for another consecutive year will be Colombo's Thurston College versus Isipatana College. Dubbed the Battle of the Brothers, the two teams will battle it out on the field for the 55th time. The two-day test will be held on the 23rd and 24th of February at the SSC grounds, while the one-day match will be played on the 14th of next month at the Pisaro Oval. Meanwhile, a media briefing was held last evening to provide details pertaining to the match between St. Joseph's College Maradana and St. Peter's College Bambalapitiya. Dubbed the Battle of the Saints, the two schools will take the field for the 84th time. The two schools will lock horns in the big match on the 2nd and 3rd of March at the Pisaro Oval.
Staying on with cricket, the first of the two T20 internationals between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh will get underway tomorrow in Mirpur. The match will begin at 5 p.m. Sri Lankan time.
Up until now, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh have faced each other in 7 T20s and Sri Lanka have emerged victorious in 5 of them. Kusal Mendis has been added to the squad for the series, while Kusal Janit Pereira, who underwent a side strain during the Tri-Nation series, has been ruled out following medical advice. Addressing media, Kusal Mendis stated that the team is in high spirits and are well prepared for tomorrow's game. Yes, the team is well prepared. We have practiced a lot. We finished the one-day series well. We played a lot of matches in this ground. We played some of the one-day matches and the last test match as well on this ground. So we are no strangers to the nature of the pitch. Our bowlers and batsmen know what they need to prepare for because we've played so many matches here.
Let's cross over to Manushal Jayathilaka at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now, temperatures may vary between 20 to 30 degrees Celsius over the course of next 24 hours. Our viewers in the northern, north central, eastern and Uva provinces will have to expect some light showers tomorrow. And moving towards the southern part of the country, there will be some showers, particularly in Mathura district. Wet weather is also in store for those who are in Western, Central and Sabaragamuwa provinces. There are some misty conditions expected in some provinces including Western, Sabaragamuwa and Southern during the mornings. Well, that's it from your weather centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. And before we go, we'd like to leave you with some breathtaking visuals of Colombo taken from above. Being a rapidly developing capital in South Asia, it not only has an eye-catching landscape, it also provides a picturesque views over the Indian Ocean. Hope you enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.